Your presence in this room tonight is very much appreciated by all of your leadership team. So thank you for being here tonight. My partner for this evening in this discussion, well, first of all, my name is Cara Wright. I'm the Director of Administration at House of Prayer. And my partner for tonight's presentation is Augie Schauer, President of Wood Lake. He and Brent King have been the very fearless leaders of this bricks and mortar team, we called ourselves, the shared property team. And I want you to know that the leaders on this team have just been so extremely thoughtful, so forthcoming, so analytical. It is our goal tonight to give you as much information as we can, in as clear of a format as we can. Listen to what you have to say for response to some of this information, to garner feedback tonight and through the coming weeks. You know, the team, the bricks and mortar team and the shared ministry team have put in tons and tons and tons of hours on this already and lost many hours of sleep. So I just want to recognize this group of folks. So Augie and Brent are the co-chairs of the team, and without their leadership, we would not have gotten nearly as far as we've gotten. Julie Brownbrake from House of Prayer and Chad Hardy from Wood Lake are participants on the team. Pastor Neil and Pastor Eric are our pastors that are giving their time to this team as well. Gary Nix from Wood Lake and Randy Johnson from House of Prayer are in advising roles, and myself. So the next time you see some of these folks, please give them a nod and a thank you, because they have done tremendous work so far and there's still much to do. So with that, reminders that in the coming weeks we will have more conversations. Next week we'll be talking on Wednesday night about worship, the following week staffing, and then the 25th, the community and CYF. And the last thing, as far as announcements go this evening, is that if you haven't already submitted a suggestion for the name of our new church, please do that. There are comment cards on both of our information desks. There is a QR code that is, and a link in your weekly e-news that you get from both congregations, so you can click that link and type in your suggested name. So there's lots of ways to give feedback. Let's see. Okay, next slide. So the agenda for tonight. So just to kind of give you an idea of where we're going. Knowing that we have limited time, we want to be sure that we save some time for discussion and feedback. So where we want to start is that the shared property team, or the bricks and mortar team, was a group that was chartered in October of last year. And we were charged with being as analytical and evaluatory as we could be when we were with the ultimate goal of developing a recommendation for property use for our new entity. So that was our charter. So since then, we've been working on a lot of things together. Augie will, the next thing that we are going to talk about this evening is how do we apply the good work done by the DREAM team. You've heard of our mission and our values, we've gone through that, but then how does that apply to what we need in a building? So that is that discussion. So I want you to be thinking during that discussion of what are some of the things that you don't see up on the slides, anything that we've missed. That's question 1 on your purple sheet. We'd like to then tell you about all of the work that's been done with hiring some outside experts in order to be, to evaluate fairly and to have outside expert opinions, because none of us are experts in this area. We have had conversations with 2 commercial brokers, so Augie will go through the information that they've provided. We've also worked with an architectural firm to give evaluatory building assessments of both of our buildings, so that all of these individuals have looked at both of the properties. So they have a relatively good way to compare. Then we're going to talk about how the bricks and mortar team is gone about trying to make recommendations, and then we'll talk about a straw poll and discussion. So without further ado, Augie, here you go.
Wow, clapping. Overly generous, thank you very much. So I got to work off notes, so when I look at my paper, it's not that I'm ignoring you, it's so I don't miss anything. Up on the slide here, I think we've got some missional pillars, and what does this mean? The brick and mortar team, the B&M team, had an exercise where we documented the building attributes based on the dream team's work that we heard on their mission and values. And also it came not just from the dream team, but it also came from you, the congregation. These 3 pillars are vibrant worship, community collaboration, and a place to grow for all ages and generations. You should have heard this previously from when the dream team spoke to us. You will see some of what we considered when looking at these areas. You've got that in front of you, you've got that above you. Take a look at that at some time and think about maybe we obviously did, not maybe. We missed something, but then write it down, jot it down. Give us some idea of something that should be considered in there that we might have missed. Sorry, working on one. All right, let's go to the next slide. So the brick and mortar team then reached out, as you heard, to 2 realtors. They came out and they actually physically toured both locations, took lots of pictures, then garnered that information. Then they went back, and both properties, they reported back to our teams. We received what is called in the world BOVs, and for each property. Now, you are not going to see those figures or those numbers in any of the forms that you have. Why is that? Is it a secret? Well, it is a secret if you want to buy the building. You don't want me to tell you what that value is. I'm kind of putting the cart before the horse there. So we do have some of those figures that they shared with us. If you want to, reach out to one of the group, and we'll tell you privately some of what those figures were and stuff like that. We just don't want to have that, the dollars and cents, if you will. We don't want to have that out in the real world, because if there is an interest to buy one of the buildings, somebody's got an advantage already. So hopefully that makes sense to everybody. We also asked the brokers for commentary, and we heard that both properties were in good condition. However, House of Prayer has more maintenance needs versus Wood Lake. Wood Lake location makes it somewhat more attractive. And by that, they meant where it was physically located for a couple of the area and close to the school. All right, so the next page, or the next sheet, if you will, happens to be the other broker. It's same comments as I had previously. It's for you to take a look and read later, make some comments on, but same statements, same comments. It's just a different realtor that we worked with, John McKenna. To let you know, both realtors came to us through various, one we were able to get through a synod contact that we had. One we were able to get, had a relationship previously from House of Prayer. So these weren't, we didn't like take the phone book and go pick that one. We didn't do that. So then we went to a company called Arc One. We reached out to Arc One. They are a preliminary condition assessment vendor. What does that mean? Well, it means they actually came and they looked at both buildings. They actually spent a lot of time in each building, probably anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. They went around and every piece of machinery in the building, they wrote down serial numbers, they wrote down production numbers, they wrote down all the information they needed to then take back with them to see, what's the condition, how long's the product been in service, et cetera, et cetera. So they toured both facilities. They shared their findings with the team, similar to the broker comments, and I quote, between House of Prayer and Wood Lake, the Wood Lake facility is, in our opinion, in better condition in terms of immediate maintenance required and cost of long-term maintenance. Hold on, standing on something. Me or you? I can't remember. I've already forgotten. Am I going still? Okay. So, yeah, see, I knew I wasn't supposed to talk. Yeah. So that's what brought us to what you're going to see on this next slide, and what Cara here is going to be able to share. So, Miss Cara, thank you.
All right, so that was a very quick overview of what the brokers and the architectural firm said about the properties. But in order to put some structure around to say what do we do next, right? What are the next steps? The property options that are being considered by the bricks and mortar team, we kind of divided them up into 4 things, right? Options A through D are up on the slide and in your packet on page 8. So it is our hope that by our next shared worship service, which is Music Sunday, we will have another town hall and potluck similar to what we did a few weeks ago on Mardi Gras. That will be on Sunday, April 26th. By that time, we're hoping to have a clear recommendation for our congregations with the input from tonight and from the ongoing weeks about what direction the congregation would like to go with regard to the properties. There will be other things in that town hall meeting that we'll be discussing that day, but this will be one of those. So that's slightly over a month from now. So that's kind of the next major step. So as you can see up on the slide, option A is for both congregations to stay at their current properties. We could choose to own both properties or lease, sell one or both buildings or lease back space. So that is option A. Option B is to sell House of Prayer and reside at Wood Lake, with an option to either own Wood Lake or sell Wood Lake and lease space back if we were to find a ownership partner that would provide a leaseback situation that would be agreeable to our congregations. Option C is the same, but to sell Wood Lake and reside at House of Prayer, again with an ownership or a leasing option. And option D would be to sell both properties and reside at a different property, a new church or some other property that we find that would meet all of the needs of what we've identified in our missional pillars. You know, what kind of building space do we need? Again, with the option to own that property or to lease back space. So those are the 4 options that we've tried to kind of quantify this, right? I mean, how do we even go about making decisions like this? So we will come back to that. I'd like to go to the next slide now, and from our last Lenten conversation last week, we heard that you wanted to hear some numbers. So many of you had asked about, when are we going to hear something about finances? So here you go. This is our attempt to give you a very high-level summary of what House of Prayer and Wood Lake finances look like, with the goal of just quantifying some things for you. We chose to use calendar year 2025 for these numbers, fully realizing that that is not either of our church year's fiscal year. However, in a calendar year 2025, the building and programming expenses are cyclical, right? So we wanted to capture all of those things and not tie something to a fiscal year. So that's why we chose that period of time. High-level financials, so there are 4 categories that we're providing you data with tonight. So total income. Total income is all of the money that we get in as congregations. That is our offering income, that is our building rental income, that is miscellaneous thing, that's coffee and donut money, that's all of the income. So you can see on that first line up there, total income for House of Prayer for the calendar year 2025 was $400,895, and Woodlake $616 and $616,019. We wanted to, so the third column, I'm just gonna, okay. There is a new entity, right? And we knew that in anticipation, a lot of you are gonna say, well, what kind of income are we gonna get in the new entity? Know that we don't know exactly, but know that we have been doing a lot of work around trying to quantify that. So those are numbers that are coming, but know that we have spent a good amount of time already trying to figure that out, but we just don't have something to report to you yet. Offering income is fairly self-explanatory. That's money that you all give, okay? And you can see what portion of our total income comes from each church's offering. Total expenses. So total expenses for the operation of both Woodlake and House of Prayer. So that's everything from staffing to insurance to utilities to program to youth to all of the things that we spend money on, right? You can see total expenses there. And then we tried to quantify building expenses. How much do we spend on things that are just specifically related to the building? That does not include staffing for the buildings. I mean, that is a very real expense, but it is not included in these numbers. And it does not include payments that Woodlake has to the ELCA Mission Investment Fund or the Endowment Fund. Nor does it include the grant that House of Prayer has from the foundation. That is actually a 2026 grant. But on the last page of your handout here, those things are outlined in detail. Okay, so the point of these 4 numbers was to do some comparisons, right? So that first line there, building expenses as a percent of total expenses. How much are the building expenses? House of Prayer has 25% of their expenses gone to the building, and Woodlake 23%. One of the things that struck me was that while those are fairly high numbers, they're very similar in both locations. Moving on, building expenses as a percent of offering, right? So, okay, all of us in this room who give offering to the church, how much of your actual money is being spent on a building is where we were trying to go there. And that is 50% at House of Prayer and 47% at Woodlake. So again, fairly substantial amounts of the money that we give to our churches are spent on building expenses. So it's something that we certainly wanted to bring to your attention as a congregation. And then the last number is total expenses as a percent of total income. We know that we are both congregations are spending more money than we bring in. Okay, this is not new news. So that is kind of the building financial piece. And then the last thing, Dan, if you would flip back to that options slide. On page 8, those 4 options, that A, B, C, D, those options. The last thing that I wanted to bring to you before we have some time for discussion here is that, as I said earlier, the goal of the bricks and mortar team was to investigate and evaluate and to ultimately make a recommendation to the congregation. Given all of this information, the bricks and mortar team took a non-binding preliminary straw poll in our last meeting with the options presented, and the team expressed a preference for option B, which is to sell the House of Prayer building and reside at Wood Lake, with the majority of the team supporting owning a property, but not wanting to close the door on the possibility of finding a partner that would own the building where we could lease back space. So that is the preliminary discussion from the bricks and mortar team. And we would now like to have you all take some time at your tables to respond to the questions on your sheet, and then we'll have some time to discuss. And we can, it's already 25 after, but we talked about going just a little longer tonight and pushing Holden off till about maybe 20 minutes too. So we will have some time. Do you have a question? Okay, so the question is discuss what leaseback means, kind of, right? And the why we would do that. Okay, so there are several Lutheran congregations that do this already. It's not as prevalent, but our partner churches, in especially the Seventh-day Adventist group, as well as Latino congregations around the country, have found it to be a successful model to partner with a worshiping congregation or an office building, for example, and lease space in that building and not be the owners, right? So they write us a check for space usage. The way that we work it in both locations is that the lease, it has very, very specific detail about what days of the week, do you want to have space? Do you want to have office space? Do you want to have options for A, B, C, and D? The leases are fairly detailed as far as what are you paying for, right? But then, when the snow needs to be plowed or the boiler needs to be fixed or the utilities need to be paid, they don't pay any additional money, right? That is on the owner of the building. So that has been on our shoulders as the owners of the property. So what we're talking about is kind of flipping the switch, right? And finding an ownership partner that would own the building, and we would determine what are the things that we need, right? Do we want office space that's dedicated to us, 24/7? What time do we want to worship? How much of the space do we want at what times for youth gatherings? And then at least at House of Prayer, what we do is there's always an option to have additional space that you would coordinate with, in our case, me in the office. Sometimes there's an additional rental fee for that additional space. Sometimes it's just, yeah, you can use it. But in order to keep, a building of this size sustainable, there's a lot of moving parts. But it's flipping who owns the building. There's absolutely going to be a cost to leasing, but it would be like writing a check compared to like renting an apartment rather than owning your home. But the onerous is not on us to staff, to run a building. Owning a building is getting increasingly more difficult when you have to think about everything from, contracts with rental partners to everything needs to be insured. You need to be able to have your sidewalks plowed by this time to manage all of the things. So there's a lot of moving parts that require a lot of staffing and a lot of coordination when you are the owner of the building. So it's just kind of flipping the, writing a check versus being responsible for all the maintenance and staffing associated with owning. Did that answer your question? Okay. All right, well, why don't we take a few minutes, and please, at your tables, take some time to discuss the questions, and then we'll kind of come around like we did last time and ask for your feedback. So if there's one person that can be the scribe at your table or be willing to talk, that's always a helpful thing.
just like last time, my hope is I'll hit a table and I'll see who wants to say something, if anything at all, and I'll start. I'm going over to this side and work my way across the room. So, hi, you get to be my first table. Who would like to speak? Scott's going to talk.
Okay, thank you. I guess the one question for number one is, has the bricks and mortar team looked at other options or buildings out there, or worked with the two realtors or real estate companies?
So everybody heard that question. We have not tried to search for any type of building, trying to determine if there is something out there at all. We have not done that because initially not our mission, not the brick and mortar scope of that particular group. Great question. I'm going over here. No, I'm not. Okay, thank you. Here you go.
Okay, I guess one thing, I don't know if we've considered this, and this maybe, I don't mean it to be a negative thing, but how many members would we lose if we decide on residing at one church or the other? And, is it not on?
No, it's not. She asked, how many do they anticipate on losing from a congregation one way or the other? We've heard numbers. Hold it, she's not on yet, hold on.
Right. I mean, again, that's another one of those, wild guess kind of things. But the numbers that we've heard in context of with our synod is about 20% decrease in overall membership from if you were to take the total of both congregations and add them together.
And that-
figure about a 20% attrition.
And that
from
loss
one or
of,
the
or that
both.
attrition of 20% is not 20% from the one location. It ends up being like a 15 and a 5. Just because even though you're staying in the same building, for whatever reason, 5% go. So, but
Or
at
with
the end
any
of the day,
kind
it's
of
20.
a, unification, whether
Right.
it's building specific or not. New location, one of the other buildings,
Yeah.
just change.
Wait, sorry, I have to go back. They had more. Here we go.
I know one thing, House of Prayer is always really concerned about music and the quality of music, and the sanctuary has been used by a lot of recording people, acoustics, and the quality of the organ. And I know that I think Woodlake had been talking about doing some changes in your sanctuary as well, though, too, which would be an option, I think. And another thing that might make sense, especially depending on the size of the congregation, is to just lease and have either one of the places, House of Prayer or Woodlake, and lease might make more sense in the long run.
Okay. That was great. Thank you for your feedback. How about this table? Anybody want to share? Share. They're bashful. Okay, that's good. How about you guys? All right. No, this is good. This is all good. How about this table right here?
All right. One of the things we wanted to just make sure that we look at is the appeal, kind of the curb appeal to the neighborhood, to bring in the community. What's going to bring our neighbors into us? We want to make sure that we look out for our rental partners, and it seems like that's part of the plan. And we also talked about what are the different locations. If we did go with option D, what's out there, knowing we kind of want to stay in this general area. Other things that we wanted to just bring up is that I think we're pretty open to where we would end up with, leaning towards maybe B and D, but we want to make sure that we're good stewards of our resources.
Great comment. Thank you very much. How about this table? Watch this.
We have lots of questions. I think we kind of all were thinking keeping both buildings, so option A was a little bit out the window, just, thinking that's part of the reason that we're doing this is so we don't have two ginormous buildings. So that was the only one that we for sure kind of eliminated. Other than that, we have lots of questions and want some more information and just kind of time to think of some more things. What did we say? Do we need this big of a building in either case? And what are the other Lutheran churches in Richfield doing, and could we bring them along into this some more? Bring in some more of that as well. Did I miss anything? That was kind of our table. Okay.
Great job. Thank you so very much. Coming over here, look at this. Somebody volunteered somebody else. Wow. How'd you feel about that? Somebody, yeah.
Story of my life. So we did a lot of good conversating. We had some questions and some openness, some interest about the prospect of not owning the space, but instead leasing it. Certainly open hearts about it, and also we would like some more information just about the specifics of what that would look like. And then we talked a little bit towards the end about kind of a question that we have, and this is asked in the voice of the folks whose building we do land in, assuming we land at one or the other that we already own. What happens when the other church moves in and they don't love our space right?
Hi. How are you? How's it going? Who would like to visit with us at this table? Right. Oh, no. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. Full disclosure on this volunteer. I got to hand the microphone to my sister.
I think no matter which option is chosen, that existing uses in both locations, that existing uses are taken into account, groups that use our facilities from within and without the actual congregation, that those be taken into consideration. And we talked a lot about ease of accessibility within the building, in the neighborhoods. So that's kind of what we discussed.
Great. Thank you very much. I forgot. Did I do you guys? No? Okay. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, John.
Well, we didn't get too far. Okay, we didn't get too far, but we did answer or brought up a concern under number 1, and that was the alterations, whichever building we choose, or if we lease or buy, whatever, we need to consider the alterations that are needed to meet the requirement of the buildings that you have outlined. And that's a wide scope of needs. So that was one of our concerns. Kind of a straw poll about which option. Right now, the option B favored, but there's still talk about leasing also. So.
Thank you very much. Oh, hi.
In the end, we kind of still favored B with the youth spaces and the relationship with the middle school being important factors on that, and also with our aging congregation, the ADA concerns between the two buildings has got to be a factor.
Thank you. Oh, somebody's going back this way. I missed you guys. I'm sorry. Oh, somebody got volunteered again. No. You want? Okay, hold on. Thank you.
I just look at the two sanctuaries when it comes to a concert production, that the front of Wood Lake would be a little bit better facility for putting on a concert for the audience, congregation, to see the production being put on, as opposed to House of Prayer. And I've been in House of Prayer for 52 years, so I've been a lot of productions there. House of Prayer does have the better acoustics, yes, when it comes to recording artists coming in. But we put on a couple of band concerts here in the past, and it just seems like it's a better facility up front. Secondly, it's a longer aisle for a bride to come down. It gives her more time to maybe change her mind.
Wow. Maybe my wife's in the room, maybe. All right. Uh-oh, am I dead? Nope, I'm good. Hey.
Our group kind of echoed some of the things that have already been said in terms of we prefer option B, but the purchasing versus the leasing of space. I'm just going to mention a couple of concerns or thoughts. So with the option B of keeping this facility that we're in right now, feeling that there's the potential that rental partners at House of Prayer may have option, or there may be a way we could offer them option to use some of the space in this building to keep and maintain those partnerships. The location in terms of being central and accessibility of public transportation, some of those kinds of things. And then concerns about the leasing is that it could constrict the use of space and not be flexible enough and responsive enough as we want to add a service or we have a special event of some sort or some of those things. Also, when we think just about renting or leasing space, costs go up and they can end the lease whenever they want. So those were a few things we thought of.
Thank you very much. All right, I think I got one table left.
So we also seem to favor B and talked about pretty much the same things that everybody else did. And kind of like Cheryl had mentioned, one of the concerns that came up with the leasing back was how long a lease can you potentially get? And in the current wave of things, since there's not rent control in Minnesota, I've heard of a lot of horror stories that after like a 5-year deal, the 6th year you get jacked up or you leave. And you're kind of stuck to either pay it or go find somewhere else. And that's very concerning if you don't control your own destiny owning it and trying to get people to pay you to lease the space.
Thank you very much. All right, did I get to every table once? I know that not every question has been answered, so please fill the sheets out. Please make sure they get handed in so that we can and take care of it that way. Please, as you think of something, because you're going to get in your car and you're going to go, oh my gosh, I should have asked this question. How come I didn't hear about that? You heard who's on the committee. Reach out to somebody on the committee and bring that statement up to the group so that we can consider that. Let me see. What am I missing here? What are you thinking?
Just kind of as a final wrap-up, so the next steps, as I mentioned, a Music Sunday at House of Prayer on Sunday, April 26th. Before we can actually go ahead and engage a realtor, we need to do a couple of things first. So that's why we are targeting that April 26th day as like a formal vote within the congregations. One will be on, the method of unification that you heard Augie and Katie talk about last week, and then also on a direction. It is a preliminary vote, right? It's like there have to be several things and several votes that have to happen within our congregations before any final decisions are made with regard to property, but we have to at least have a preliminary vote from you all, right, to engage a realtor, right? So then we can determine one of the two individuals that we worked with. And we can, ask them at that point, what else is available? Could we seek an ownership partner that could possibly have a leaseback option? it's the beginning, right? So I don't want to freak you all out that, they're asking us to make a decision by April 26th. That's not the goal of that meeting. It is to empower the bricks and mortar team and the leadership team to take the next step. Okay? So, yes. So the purple sheets are available on Sunday mornings for you to go ahead and add more feedback. Watch your e-news. There's a QR code and a link. Click those buttons and give us more feedback, and we will do our best to get questions answered promptly for you all.
Very good. I think we're ready to pass it on to Pastor Corla.